Hey guys, how's it going? So this is a video on how to change out the mirror caps on a 2022 Nissan Frontier. And you just order the mirror caps and the turn signals for a 2019 Nissan Rogue. It's the exact same setup, but it's a little bit of a learning curve on how to do this. There's currently no videos I could find on the internet of how to make this change out, so I figured I would make one the best I can just to give people an idea. I'm sure there's plenty of ways to do it, but this is just some of the stuff that I learned. Obviously I have the Boulder Gray color. I went ahead and switched out the passenger side. I had these mirror caps painted at an auto body shop. You went with a satin black finish just because I like the idea of having all black accessories. So you can see that I went ahead and installed the blinker turn signal here, and once I got it figured out, it really wasn't too bad. It was just kind of routing the wiring, but I already have this one installed because I wanted to learn how to do it before I attempted to make a video, and I would assume that the driver's side would be pretty similar. So I'll show you just a few things that I learned how to do this. So first, there's just a few tools that you want to get. Don't necessarily need all these, but this came with the turn signals, and that's pretty handy just because it doesn't scratch. It's plastic. The screwdriver, needle nose pliers, and a 10mm wrench. A deep socket, if you have one, is more ideal. But first thing to do is to remove this mirror. And so essentially you just, it seems like you'd break it, but it just pops off. Just gotta be gentle, but yeah, the passenger side came off really pretty easy. There's just a circle mechanism on the inside that this is attached to, and so it just has to come off of that. So you can see that's on the inside. So obviously it has the heating elements, stuff like this. Just unplug these two little wires here to give you more room. They just pull off. Or should it? There. And then just leave it hang. So this cap is held on by these little clips in here. I hope you can see all this, but you can loosen those little clips and pry this back. The cap comes off decent. Just takes a bit to get in there. There you can see it. Once you get it going, it just kind of comes off. The only thing is, on this bottom side, those are hard to get to. And I didn't really find a better way to get to it on the passenger side. And I broke a couple of the little clips off the gray piece, off the cap itself, in taking that off. But there again, I guess I don't really care, because as long as it doesn't break the holders. So you can hear it just snapped. I'm gonna throw these away anyway. I mean, there. Yep, see, those two broke off. Same ones as broke off on the passenger side, but it's gonna be replaced anyway in my mind. So what I did was, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I like to get down in there and get those little pieces. See, that's a little ear that broke off. And I don't know where the other one went. I couldn't find it on the passenger side anyway. Hopefully it doesn't rattle or something. Anyway, so there's the inside of the mirror. And this is what the turn signal looks like. And it does have a left hand, right hand. So that's as you're sitting in the vehicle, obviously, left hand. So it goes on like this. And the slick thing about this is, you can tell it was just, this is a Rogue mirror, are interchangeable, because these two poles line up perfectly with those two little holes. And so you just put it in there and it just sits in there. It fits perfect. But what I did is, it has this little clip right here, and that'll clip in, but I went ahead and put in some screws in there just to hold it in better. And what I used is number 4 1/2-inch sheet metal screws, and it really worked pretty good. What I recommend doing is starting the screw before you put it in, because you don't want to be fighting making threads in that plastic when you're trying to put it together. Because these aren't pre-threaded, or they don't feel like it anyway. Just take a little bit of time and tap that screw in there, and it'll allow it to go on much easier. Oh man, that's kind of hot. And yes, that's my 2018 Toyota Tacoma that I have really liked. I'm gonna actually sell it to my nephew, so that's why I still have it here. And then I don't know, I recommend putting a washer on these screws, because they're going to go one right there, and then one, if you can see it in there, right there is where the holes are. So put a washer on that screw, it'll hold it on there nicely. Yeah, some of what you're going to need obviously is the mirror cap itself. Like I said, I had auto body shop paint these that I ordered for a 2019 Nissan Rogue. Satin black finish, because I'm gonna have everything be black on there. And then you can probably use maybe 20 gauge wire, something like that. But the only thing that Home Depot had was 16 gauge, and I would recommend getting a full pack, the 24 foot for each mirror, just because it runs a lot further than you would think when wrapping around there. So I got a black and a red, and then some splices. For this, the splices on those turn signals are very small. I don't know if they're 20 gauge or what, but these seem to work pretty good to go from the 16 wire to the small little connector on the turn signal itself. And then just some zip ties, some short little zip ties to zip tie some wire down, and then of course the sheet metal screws, the number 4 1/2 inch to actually screw the turn signals on. And you probably also want to have a couple of energy drinks of your choice, because it's kind of a tedious process. Okay, just line that up with the holes. You see that little clips in, and it's stuck on there, or held, but you put these screws in anyway. That goes on much easier if you self-tap it prior to putting those on. Just don't over tighten it, because you don't want to strip out that plastic. But it's tight, and that's on there. So that's the easy part. Doing the other side got me to thinking about that quote from 300, where at the end the queen kills the guy and says, "This will not be over quickly. You will not enjoy this." So, I don't know how other people have done it, but I tried to, well, I'll show you. At first, I thought, well, hell, there's the hole, and you can just go down in there, and it starts feeding down in there, and I fed, I don't know, probably 4 feet of wire in that hole, and I never got it to come out. I don't know if you can see this, but right here is where it's going to come out, this grommet area. And I'll take some pictures of this in case it doesn't show up on video very good. But this is the hole where the wires will come out. And then the hole where they go in, there's this other little plastic grommet thing right there. And it comes in right there. You can see my finger. So it's super easy once you get the wires down there. But what I found is that it was much easier, rather than trying to fight that. I don't know how you would do it otherwise, because really there's no way of guiding that wire down the correct route without taking part of this door panel off. Don't take the big door panel off. I watched a video on how to take the door panel off, and it gives you no access beyond what you're going to get here. So this comes off pretty easy. You got a little sticky thing there, but, and then I don't have a deep socket, but these are 10mm nuts, and they aren't on too awful tight. At least the other side wasn't. Just remember, if you screw up some of this paint on the inside, it's covered up anyway, so. Then these do have, this channel here isn't too awful deep, but I didn't want to take the chance of dropping those nuts down in there. So I just took a pair of needle nose pliers and back off those nuts. And obviously what we're doing here is this holds on the entire mirror assembly. And if you take this off, it makes it way easier. I thought I was just going to be able to thread it from that hole down there and then reach in and fish that out, but you'll see here in a second why that's not really possible. I said, this isn't too complicated of a mod, it just takes a while. And I did install the Raptor lights on this, so I do have a little bit of knowledge as far as how the wires come and go through the firewall, which helped. Okay, so now that's free. You just kind of pull that off. Okay, and this is what you got. So I tried to fish it through there and have it come out there, and but if you just take this, so this is a little foam gasket thing, and it's just kind of sits on there, so it comes off really easy. Just try and not tear it. It's just stuck underneath those, or tucked up underneath those bolts. If you just pull it out of the way, you can see what the issue is. So go down through that hole. It's a fairly straight shot, but then it like 90s and comes out through there. And so the wire on the other side that I did, it wants to come out under there, which I don't know, I think's fine. It's really hard to get it in there, but then if you just thread that through this hole and then it goes down there and you're set. Okay, now here's the wire. Like I said, I like to start with the whole 24-foot roll because it's going to be going across the engine and everything else. I go ahead and just unroll the whole thing because you have to feed it all through all the way. So this is where you start in this hole right here, and I found it's about as easy just to thread them both through at the same time. So twist them together, makes it more stable, and it kind of goes at an angle, so see what I mean by where it comes out at the bottom. It comes out fairly easily there, but if you can see how all this, if this was all still together and attached there, it's like, what are the chances of it coming through this hole, let alone that hole, going through this thing and then somehow angling down into the side of the pickup. It's not going to happen. So that's where I say just take the whole thing apart. It comes apart fairly easily, and then, you know, in reality you don't need 24 feet of wire, obviously, but that's the only roll length that my Home Depot had. So just run it to where, you know, you give yourself plenty of room. And then what I did was just splice these together, make it a permanent splice. I couldn't find the little cute connector there, so like I said, you can try to fish it up through that hole, but it can be done, but kind of pointless, I think. As long as it goes through this foam thing, that'll hold it in place. Then of course you can always zip tie stuff together so it stays in place a little bit better. And there might be some people that say, well, you don't need to run the black wire because you could, I don't know, find a ground somewhere, but I think it'd be just about as easy to run them together and then just ground it on the engine block. So, okay, you can't really see it probably in the video at all, but you can see light down in there where I removed that little rubber grommet deal that's holding out the other wire harness. And if you can aim the wire towards that, then you can grab it from the outside pretty easily. We'll see. Not yet. And there again, I don't know if you've done a whole lot of wiring. If you just put a bunch of loops in there, as long as you grab a loop, then it can be pulled through. It doesn't really have to be the end. So that was my original thought process. Well, I'll just stick about 4 feet through that hole right there, but it didn't end up going anywhere. Okay, yep, got one of the wires. It's a black one. Such a stupid small space to work with that makes everything difficult. But I guess that's the beauty of it. So there is obviously the ends. And so as you can see, the routing of the wire, once you take everything apart, it's not that bad. Getting it through the door anyway. And so then we're just going to pull all of this wire through the door, just make sure it doesn't hang up on anything. And just be cognizant of dragging it past any metal edges. Like I've got my finger kind of between the wire and that metal so it doesn't strip off any of the insulation. And I apologize, I could probably have a lot better video and this would go a little bit easier, but I'm working by myself on this, so it really takes two hands to do all of this. Can't hold a video camera. My wife's not here today, so that takes out another person. Just whatever you do, don't pull it through. Then you got to start the whole process over, which isn't a deal breaker, but just kind of a pain in the ass. Okay, so there's the wire, and these wires I ran from the passenger side, so I'm going to punch them all through the firewall together and then route them in the engine compartment to the prospective blinkers. Oh yeah. Oh yes. I'm glad I didn't do that yet. Okay, so be sure that before you hook everything up and route the wires through the wall, that you route the wires through these little rubber grommets, and I just make a little cut. Pretty much everything is challenging on this install. Getting the wires even through this rubber thing can't just be easy. Okay, see there, I poked them through. But be sure and have those wires pulled all the way through, because that's what protects it going into the door. And obviously the less wire you have, the less it's going to take, but I figure it's easier to have extra wire and cut it off, because you got to buy the roll anyway, than to be a foot short of where you want to be and have to splice it. Okay, so that one should be good to go. So you just fit that rubber grommet gasket thing back in there. And now you can see that the wires are poking through the rubber thing, so they're protected. Next, you want to take this little grommet thing that came out of that hole and feed it through there first before you stick it through. And there again, just make a hole. Fit both those wires through there. Like I said, this is the exact same process I went through on the other side in order to get the mirror off. put the turn signal on, route the wires. The only difference is once it gets into the cab, what happens to it. Obviously the passenger side comes across. I routed it underneath the dash, up under there. I took pictures showing where the routing went on the underside. Run that. Make sure you're having it pointing the right way too when you put this on, with the ends poking through that way, because this is the outside, so that's running inside. Like I said, I'm definitely no professional at this. This is not my career trade to do anything with automotive stuff. I grew up on a farm, and so there's a lot of, I don't know, you do this sort of stuff growing up on a farm. So that's the only place I learned any of this. So I'm actually learning as I go, and just kind of how it makes sense. So that's the hole where that grommet came from, and it just goes to the inside. You can stick your hand in to feel, and it just comes right out underneath there. It's pretty handy. The only thing is you got to gauge how much distance you need by the time that's in there. So I would say that would be probably pretty decent. The door isn't going to open any further than that. You don't really need much closure. So the only other thing I did was took some black tape and taped it. Not that it necessarily needs it, but it is in theory exposed to the outside. So ooh, look at that shit. That's where maybe tying those off or something would be a good idea, because I got pretty short on those. There's still plenty of room, but especially by the time you put that back up, so there'll be enough room to splice those together, so it's okay. But I would like to add, I don't know, 4 or 5 more inches just for safety, because if that pulls through, start the entire process over. Like I said, I don't know if this is necessary, but just kind of keeps everything a little bit tidier and together. It's just a little difficult to do. But the way I see it, this is a permanent mod, so I don't plan on ever taking any of this stuff apart ever again. So, oh, why not secure it really well? Okay, just kind of shove that back in there to where it meets the tape. Same way with this little dude. And this is turned inside out, so you can put that back how it's supposed to be. Run that up to there. There. That's how it's supposed to look. Okay, then you just got that little protective pigtail. Pull it through, and then tuck that back on and There you go. This wire looks professional. Okay. So now you got this whole conglomerate, and both the driver's side and the passenger side are ready to be run through the firewall at the same point, and then we'll send them to their respective power sources under the hood. The next thing we need to do is attach the mirror first. So I'll be sure and tuck this little foamy gasket thing back under there. And see, it's okay. I might put a zip tie around that guy. How do I do the zip ties? It probably matters, but okay, that should all be good. That's routed down through there. I said ideally you'd have a deep 10mm socket, but a wrench kind of works, and it'll stay tight. As long as you get it about as tight as it came off, then theoretically it won't go anywhere. Okay, now just put this dude back on here. Take the little buttons, pop them back in. There, now the inside is basically done. Yeah, and I would have liked to have gotten a little, plug-in for that, but oh well. beauty of doing mods for yourself. You can do it however the hell you want. And this is where these splices come into play. Put on the bigger one first. And make sure it's seated down in there and crimp it. Yep, got him. Okay. And here again, that would probably hold, but I don't want that coming apart and have to take this all back apart again, so just gonna tape them. Offers a little more protection and just kind of holds that splice together a little bit better. Okay, that's good. And then just tape them together, it just stabilizes everything, makes it one unit. Like I say, I'm no auto electrician or wiring specialist, but I guess it just makes sense. And then you can just kind of, if it will, just kind of feed that down in there. So she's got a happy little home that won't bind up with anything. Then take this. Actually, maybe I'll put the mirror on first and do it either way. Make sure it's lined up good. And you can feel when it seats on there pretty easy. Just push evenly on it. Oh shit. I didn't hook up those wires. Yeah, be sure and hook these up, because then I don't know if that's I think that's the heater, the defroster, the mirror defroster, most likely. Wires. Okay, got them hooked up. Just line this up and put the top, the edge and the top on first, just because it has a lip that goes underneath there. It kind of snaps in, and the rest of it kind of lines up. That's it for that part. And obviously you can have, you know, your color mirrors, whatever you want, but I think that looks pretty slick with the black mirror and having the turn signal in there. That'll look pretty good. That cap, see, this is the Rogue cap, and it fits perfect. You know, I mean, it should. It's all made to go together, but so that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna punch these walls through the firewall, and I don't know how much you can see, but there's wires running up through there. That's from the passenger side, and right there is where I'm gonna go through at. There's a little grommet right there, so he's pretty handy to get to. So we just take all these wires. Actually, those are the wires that we just came out, so I'm going to route those back behind there and stick it in, but it should be pretty easy. And then you can see where it comes out. If you can see that, this is the Raptor wire that I ran over to the fuse box in the passenger glove box. So just going to come through there with both the passenger and the driver's side turn signals, and then the way I understand it is you have to patch into the wires themselves on the turn signals, and I'll have to figure out where that's at, but it would come from the turn signals. Anyway, you can find that, and then so probably run the driver's side along there, down there, and the passenger side along that and over here. And there was a post earlier. The guy said it's like, I think yellow on the driver's side and purple on the passenger side. I'll have to go back and look at that. Yeah, so I got all the wiring done, and you can see up in there that, I'll try to show this, that's the wire coming through the driver's side door. There is the little grommet. I just had to cut it and put it around all 5 wires that are going through there, but it tucks up nicely underneath there. So this is basically all done. Got that done, and here's where the wires come out. You can see see down in there. So the wire is going to the left or passenger side, the wire is coming straight out or driver's side, and that single red wire is the wire that goes to the fuse box for the Raptor lights. So I got 5 wires coming out that little grommet sight. And I have the, let's see, that is where I have the Raptor lights ground to, so it's probably just where I'll ground these lights as well. And I'll run that one over there, and these two that plug in. And I checked, and the previous guy said purple on the driver's side, but you can see the little purple light, or the purple wire, and yellow on the passenger side. You can see the yellow wire there that we're going to tap into. And I'm just taking on blind faith that that is correct. So I'll tap into those and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then I'll do something different. Okay, I've got one decent screw up that I did that I don't want you to make the same mistake. Apparently, red to this turn signal is the ground, and the black is the hot. I had it all wired red to red, black to black, black to ground, and it did not work. And so I took the mirror cap back off, and by the way, you can see there are little clips right here and here that are on the inside. I'll back up in there so that you don't break off these little guys. You can't get to those otherwise. So I think those will just break off. So take out those, push on those clips and take those out, and then this piece will come off with the cap and this bottom piece. And so that prevents from breaking the old one or the new one. So now that we have this hooked up right, I'm going to show you, I think it will work. Boom. That was the whole damn thing. I had everything wired good, but I had red to red, black to black, and it did not work. So we'll put it back together, tape it all up, and then move on with the rest of the video. And that's how it's supposed to work. Works good. So now I'm going to run the passenger side wire across and patch it in. Okay, got the passenger side wire running there all along that. I'm going to zip tie that down. But so this, if I'd used a full roll, this would have come all the way across and attached easily, but this was the wire that I used, the leftover from running the Raptor lights, and so I didn't have enough. So I'm just going to splice it on. Yeah. Splice on a little piece. So I'm going to splice because there's no way in hell I'm running all that wire again. And this is freaking fun to get to. And I did go ahead and unplug this from the headlight just to make it easier. So be sure you don't cut any wires. It'd been handy if they would given a little bit more slack. So I don't think I need to include this in the video, but so there's the yellow wire that we're going to tap into. Tapped into the purple on the driver's side and the yellow on the passenger side. So I'm going to tap into that, hook this red wire onto it. The ground is already grounded over there. And like I said in the previous splice-in video, I had it hooked up wrong. I had red to red, black to black, thinking red was the hot, but it's not. So I'm going to have to take off that mirror cap and redo that connection, then it should work. Okay, got that damn thing on. So I just plug that back in. Should be good. Okay. I'll show you what I did as far as taking this mirror cap off. It worked better. Well, goodness. Okay, there's the clip there, clip there, clip there. There's a little clip right there, and then there's one back in there somewhere. That came out. That's good. Okay, top is free. side's free. There's one more in there. It just kind of comes off, and those are the two clips I was trying to work on. Those are the ones I busted off the gray mirror cap. So okay, so I'll switch these damn things. I've just found many things like this. It doesn't really matter which wire is hot and which one is ground. As long as they're hooked up independently, they usually work, but this is not the case with this one. I don't know, maybe that's something specific to automotive that smarter people than me know about. And I should have checked to make sure it worked before I put everything back together, but I did not. I was just confident that red to hot, black to ground. And it is about 100 degrees and 80% humidity today, so it makes it even more enjoyable when you screw up stuff. But at least I don't have to rerun all the wire. Just make damn sure red goes to black. Oh, and make sure this son of a bitch works before I hook it up and put everything back together. That's the way it's supposed to work. Okay. That makes it feel much better. Tell how hot it is outside with the way this tape is just very pliable, which is good. It gives it a better seal. Okay, I'll tuck him back in there. Everything's kind of lined up. Okay, good to go. Hook up the meter, or the heater. Line that up. Whew. Okay, so that's hooked up. Wire run across there all the way. That's what that one looks like. Hooked into that turn signal, and it's purple on this side, yellow on that side. Goes through the firewall. I took some pictures, but passenger side, that's the wire I stuck through right there. And hell, you can't see. So wires come through a little grommet back in there, and I just ran it up behind there and over there. They said where they come out at? Come out up there. I just went up behind a bunch of stuff and out that little hole. Now, see if this damn thing works. Side's working. Raptor lights still work. And this side works. So now I just need to zip tie kind of some things down, and that's it. Hope this helped out some. I know it's a lengthy video, and it obviously it's probably a lot longer than it should be, but this takes a while to do this mod, so but I think it'll look pretty good. Hope it helped out. Thanks.